Stats 23 here. In today's Knife Therapy, we have the Civivi Knives Foldis. This is a Ostap Hel design, and they have several designs with Ostap Hel now. And this one's going to come in right here at $59.75. It also comes in two other variations. You can get it with a bead blasted blade and a hand rubbed copper scales for $79, or you can get it with a black wash blade and brown linen micarta for $61.50. Now, I was looking at that picture, and the linen micarta looks like better micarta. I'll have to wait and see until I get some, but if you happen to get that one, let me know how that micarta is. Let's get the specs out of the way. You have a total length of 6.37 inches. So instead of medium to smaller range of knives, you have a blade length of 2.67 inches. So it's going to be legal in just about any area, especially since this is a non-locking knife. You have a grip area from up here to the back right here of 3.4 inches. Handle scale thickness of 0.40, so a good bit of below the average of 0.5. You have a closed width in the pocket of 0.75, so this thing's going to really disappear. And your blade stock thickness is coming in at a pretty thin 0.10 inches. That's about the same as a Benchmade bug out. Behind the edge thickness on my particular knife is around 14 thousandths, and this one's sharpened at 22 degrees per side. The last Ostap Hel knife that I reviewed was his other collaboration with Civivi, and this is the KIZER Plus. And this is more like the designs I've seen from Ostap Hel. This one's a little bit more tamed down, should I say. But this one is a locking knife. Let's take a close look at this blade. You got a nice classic drop point. Very, very nice right there. This one is the black wash finish. And this finish holds up pretty darn well, at least through all the testing I've done. You do have a pretty acute point right there for piercing task. You're going to have to definitely be careful if you're, sticking this into something. I would hold it like this. You have a sharpening notch right here cut out. And it looks like you should have a good bit of sharpening life before it starts to widen back. You can see the plunge is way back here. So that's nicely done. You have the Ostap Hel designs written on this side, nothing on this side. And your blade steel on this is, I don't know if you can see that or not, it's in Nitro V, which is a really good stainless steel for a budget knife. It holds a decent edge, it's fairly tough, and it takes a ridiculously sharp edge. You have a nice long row of jimping, but I don't really understand that because I know me, I'm keeping my finger off of here because any pressure, and look, because this right here is a double detent type slip joint, whatever you want to call it. It's not really a slip joint because there's not a back spring, but it's held by two detent balls that hold it in that position, and it doesn't take much pressure to release that blade. If I had to guess, I would say that these are more made for the European market that can't own locking knives. But even then, I'm just more inclined to use a slip joint because you have way more safety than you do on something like this, especially when the only guard you have is this little bitty kick up right there, kind of, I don't know. You do have a high flat grind. Like I said, it comes down pretty darn thin. That paired with the thin blade stock, this thing should slice like a demon. Why don't we find out, and we'll see how dangerous this knife is. The knife came to me very sharp from factory. That's 2 for 2 for Civivi. The last two knives I got for them came very sharp, and the thin stock along with the good edge geometry, it was slicing very, very well. However, since there is no lock, you need to make sure that you complete your downward cut just so you don't pull it up and get caught in the cardboard and cause it to close on you. Not something I had an issue with, but this is shorter pieces of cardboard. Here we're just testing the ergos and see how well that edge is wanting to bite into the wood. Notice right away the handle is comfortable, no hot spots to speak of, but the scales are skinny and narrow. So I did notice I had to squeeze those handles a lot harder to get a solid grip. And because of that, my wrist and my forearms began to cramp up, fatigue rather quickly. But that edge is still feeling really, really good. Now we move on to the 1/2-inch twisted sisal rope, and the edge still felt great with a good bit of bite to it. That was kind of surprising, making it pass through the rope pretty darn easily. Excellent blade shape for cutting on a flat surface. The narrow, skinny scales still made it a little difficult to get a good solid grip, and that made it a little bit difficult. I ended up making 32 cuts through the rope, and it did feel good at the end. I'm really hoping that it still has a good enough edge to complete the rest of the testing, and we will see. I did find it, I was just kind of trying to figure out where my hand placement was, because of course you don't want to put pressure down on that blade. Not that it's going to go anywhere, it's going to go right into the cutting board, but it just makes things a little bit unsafe. You don't want that handle to turn around on you, trying to, you know, catch that blade from dropping. So once I got a good grip, it felt okay. Now these type of cuts are where it gets difficult, because usually I use my pointer finger and pull it down, but of course that would cause the blade to close. So I decided to try and do everything in that pinch grip on the scales. And we already talked about that. That makes things a little bit more difficult, just because it's a narrow, skinny handle, and you got to really grip it tight. Now, it did great so far. This is the only thing, it kind of caused a little bit of drag, but once I started that cut, that thin geometry and good edge geometry made it blast through it. But the black coating did cause a little bit of friction. But like I said, once it started that cut, it was going through without a problem. The edge still feels really good, and we'll see if it has any bite left to it once we move to that denim, because when you get to the denim, if it doesn't have bite, it kind of skates off of it, kind of like the rope. But as you can see here, it's having absolutely no problem. And once we finish all this, I will test that edge to see where it's at. But I would think it's pretty good still. Even if it's not the best, Nitro V is very, very easy to strap back to super sharp. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that cutting footage. I enjoyed making it with this one, mainly because they did such a good job on this edge, not to mention the thinness and everything. And like I said on my Civivi Synergy 3 video, if you didn't see that, go check it out. But man, that knife performed so well, and so did this one. You know, and before this, my Nitro V just didn't really perform that great from Civivi. So I don't know if they maybe increased their hardness, or maybe the ones I had just, I don't know. I mean, look at that. I mean, I did a decent bit of cutting with this. Didn't strop it or anything after the test. It's not as sharp as it was in the beginning, but that's to be expected. You know, that front portion of the knife is, you know, a little bit duller than the back. Let's see if I can show you that. But I mean, it still cuts. All right, let's close it up and take a look at the deployment and action of this knife. Now, this is definitely a fidgety knife. You have this top flipper that has jimping right there. And talk about, you just put your finger up there, pull back, and this thing rockets out. You can also push it closed like that, open, close, open, close. So it's definitely a fidgety design. And if that's what you're going for, this might be the knife for you. The safety problem, I mean, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to grab a locking knife or a slip joint every day before I grab something like this. That's just me, you know, and I showed you could use this safely. The only time you're going to have to worry about this is if you put your thumb on here trying to push down on it like that, or if you're cutting into something like cardboard or rubber and you're cutting and you think you're through the bottom of it and you're not, and you go to lift up and this thing grabs the cardboard or whatever and pulls down on you, then you could have a problem. But other than that, you know, just like with a friction folder and stuff like that, you just got to be mindful of what you're doing when you cut stuff. But, you know, it is riding on bearings. It's not going to be drop shut because it's a very light blade, but it doesn't need to be. Plus, it has those detent balls holding pressure on there. But rockets out, no doubt. Very, very nice, crisp break on those detents. And nice action due to the ceramic bearings in the inside. Now, let's take a look at the hardware and the scales. You have Civivi branded pivot. Being that this was the blacked out version, I wish they would have blacked it out kind of like they did on the Synergy. That would have looked much cleaner, being that you have, you know, such a dark blade. Got a very minimal hardware, just one screw right here. It's tip up, left or right handed pocket clip there. You have T8 on your hardware throughout, so that's always nice to see. Deep carry wire pocket clip, that's cool to see. I don't know, have they ever used a wire pocket clip? But let's check it out in the pocket. Now, you don't have the biggest ramp right there, but it is rounded there, so it will probably clear. I mean, it clears my jeans no problem, and it pretty much disappears. This is going to be a easy knife to carry because it's so slim in this dimension and in the thickness that it's going to hug the side of your pocket. You're not going to even tell you have a knife in your pocket because it's, you know, fairly lightweight as well. Now, let's take a look at the G10. You do have contour G10, and they did that by putting a, you know, chamfer on both of those sides right there. And then you have this chamfered out the milling in the middle. That's just a nice aesthetic look. And you also have another milled line right there. They did a good job though. There's no hot spots to speak of. At least I didn't notice any. And I did notice, I mean, this is a small knife. And I was scared I wouldn't be able to get a full four finger grip. But as you can see, you can go past the scales because of that jimping right there. So that finger can go right there. And that kind of gives you just a little added safety. So, you know, if you can, I mean, you're not going to really be able to hold that shut. But just so you know it's already broke those detent balls. But my medium-sized hand gets a good grip on it. You may even be able to fit your large hands on there, depending. Extra large, no way. Since you already have a small knife, you have flow-through construction, minimal hardware, a hidden lanyard post that keeps it nice and clean. It's very lightweight. Let's check it out on the scale. First off, in grams, 60.9 grams, 61 grams, or 2.1 ounces. So yeah, it's a super featherweight. Since there is no lock, we won't be talking about any lock access or anything like that. So we'll move on to the size comparisons. First up, we have the KIZER Feist and the Benchmade Mini Bug Out. Both of these really reminded me a lot, especially the Feist of the Foldis. Similar blade shapes and stuff like that. But both of these knives are a little bit longer in overall dimensions. Next, we have the KIZER Mini October and the Civivi Knives Plus. The October is very close in overall length, almost identical. You have more cutting edge on the Foldis though, and then on the Knives Plus you have more cutting edge, but it's smaller than the Foldis. Lastly, we have the Ontario Rat Model 2 and the Ferrum Forge Mini Archbishop. The Rat 2 is a little bit longer in overall length, and the Mini Archbishop is about identical in overall length, but you have more handle area and more blade length on the Foldis. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints. And these are just nitpicks because it's not the knife's fault. Man, this would have been such a good knife with a liner lock or any kind of lock or even a slip joint. Those are just too dangerous. Now, I would have even been happy with a finger choil that I know that if it closes, it's just going to close in that finger choil. There's too many nice locking knives, and even if you can't have a locking knife, too many good slip joints that give you way more protection than this one would. So, you know, I'm saying it's not an unusable knife by any means, because I showed you in my testing, you can definitely use it. You just got to be more cautious. But if you're like me and you just want to be able to take out your knife and use it and not have to worry about, you know, this easily coming down if you do something wrong, then you're definitely not, this isn't going to be for you. But if you're in an area where you can't have a locking knife and, you know, you're not worried about this coming down because you carry, you know, say friction folders, then this may be the knife for you. It's an excellent slicer. It is a small knife, but it's a great, like, discreet carry knife because that profile. You know, the handle almost sits, the blade almost sits completely in that handle. Very slim in all dimensions. It was decently comfortable for, you know, its size. And that blade, man, just performs so well. I love the wire pocket clip on here. I hope they use those more often. I think I prefer that over their stainless deep carry clip. I'd love to hear y'all thoughts on that. Which one do y'all prefer? this one or this one. You know, it's pretty rigid here, as long as they do it right, you know. But come on, Civivi, give us this one in a button lock or a liner lock. That'd be great, and make it a little bit longer. Make it the size of a Rat 2. That'd be awesome. What do y'all think about that as well? So I'd love to hear y'all thoughts on this, and I'd love to hear y'all thoughts on these detent held open knives. You know, or is that something for you? Because that was what killed it for me for this knife. I love this knife, but this is the same thing, a detent slip joint. Now, at least this one had that little choil area, but it's still, you know, not the safest. And that was also what killed it for this, you know, the first Appalachian Drifter, where they had the same double detent system. This one sliced like nobody's business. This thing is probably one of the sliciest Civivis I've ever had, because that deep hollow grind. Come on, Civivi, start using more hollow grinds like that. You're missing out. Love this. Can't wait to hear y'all opinions, thoughts, and I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.